Deidra is the founder and CEO of Concerning Learning, and she's a certified professional in learning and performance in training management, and she's a Kirkpatrick bronze level certification credential holder. Deidra has trained thousands of people in corporations, nonprofit entities, and government agencies on business, human resources, equal employment opportunity, and leadership development topics to improve organizational and individual performance. Deidra is an excellent presenter, and the proof is in the pudding. And so, Deidra, you have the floor.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. I am honored to be here. When I look at the presenters that are coming up, it is exciting I'm going to have to check out 40 plus and get involved because I see some topics that are really near and dear to me. So I invite everyone who is camera ready to turn on your cameras. I am looking for lots of engagement today. I feed off of your energy. So yes, I bring my own energy source. However, I do feed off of yours, and I love to connect with people, whether it's in the classroom, in the virtual classroom. However, I like to connect. So, and I love to see people's backgrounds. That's just like, how do people, it tells a lot about you when you see the background. So I invite you to, if you're camera ready, I do understand we are working virtually. So sometimes we're not quite camera ready, and I understand. But however, come as you are and engage in today's topic. So I do want to share. I do have slides, but I will periodically turn them off. You're going to go into some breakout rooms and do some activities. Actually, just once we'll do that. So I just want to manage your expectations as to what you're going to experience today. In addition to that, you're going to have a scavenger hunt. So you're going to have an opportunity to do some outreach outside of this room, but then share it when you come back. So I am looking forward to today and hope that you get a lot of learning nuggets. And I always call them learning nuggets because every little nugget adds to a meal, and a meal is your career journey. And so everything that you learn, add to your toolkit and move forward in your career. So with that, let me share my screen. And I'm working with two screens. So I am not sure if you see, is everybody, can you see what are you seeing? Somebody give me some feedback.
Stay on top of your game.
Okay, so are you seeing which show?
Blue and purple screen.
You're seeing a blue one. Okay.
Yeah, with your.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. So are you seeing and I'm sorry, we did not do this, but you're seeing the just the slide.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So yes, stay on top of your game on a shoestring budget. A lot of what I'm going to cover today, you probably know. So I don't want you to, although I do think you'll get some additional learning nuggets from today, but it's more of a refresher, and it's making learning intentional, because we all need to stay on top of our game. And I'll explain to you why on a shoestring budget is added to that in a second. But I hope that this presentation inspires you to be a continual learner, to understand the benefits of learning continually, in order to stay on top of your game. Because you may be on top of your game today, and you can be knocked off tomorrow if you do not continually learn. So with that, let's move on to, so this is just a little bit about me. Jeffrey shared some of my background, and I just these are some words that describe some credentials, some of my things that I've done in the government. I was in the government federal government for 27 years, in various agencies. So I was in FAA for 16 years, Department of Energy for 8 years. Oh gosh, a year and a half at Census and 2 years at Department of Transportation before I took the big giant leap from government, walked away, resigned, and fulfilled my passion, which is my business that I started in 2011. And I want to just share with you, out of all of these words, what do you think is the most valuable? What do you think are the words that are the most valuable on this list? And I'll invite you to type in the chat. What do you think is the most valuable words on this list? Give you a chance to type that in the chat. I see some people know me. Some people know me already. All right, so the most valuable words on this list: passionate learner. And I say that because, yes, there's some credentials. Yes, I've done a lot of training and gone through a lot of programs. I train other trainers, so I'm a master trainer. I've been facilitating and in the field for over 20 years. However, the most valuable the most valuable bullet is passionate learner. And the reason why is because if I didn't have that passion for learning, although I consider myself, and others may consider me an expert in the field, the passionate learner, it constantly it makes me thirsty for learning. And I am always finding ways to learn. I think that learning, once you stop learning, you stop living. And so I think that no matter what age, no matter what stage you are in your career journey, learning, being a passionate learner, which means you're going after those learning opportunities. It's not just you sitting back and I know everything. No one knows everything, whether you're an expert in your field or not. So you need to adopt that passionate learner mindset. So what's going to make this challenging? The reason why I'm pausing is because you usually will get this ahead of time so that you can write on it. So if you don't have access to a printer, hopefully you have a way to just take notes. So this will guide you in the notes that you're taking. And I'm sharing this sheet with you. It is designed with little blocks because each of those little blocks are, I want you to fill them up with different ways, different developmental ideas, ways that you can develop on a shoestring budget. And so each time I mention one, like joining a professional association, hint, hint, that is your first one to write down. So everybody has at least one developmental activity that they can do so that's not free, but there are ways that you can, depending on what you're doing in your career and what your professional association is, you should, if you have the ability to definitely join whatever profession you're in, join your professional association. So just to remind you, capture different developmental activities. You will get 35 that I am going to share with you in this session. Ways that you can develop that do not cost an exceptional amount of money. And each time you hear one, whether I say it or someone else says it, definitely write it down. All right, so that's what this is for. On the other side of your note taker, you have space for you to capture things that I'm going to cover in today's session. Does anybody have any questions about that, about what this note taker is and how to engage with me so you are actively listening for developmental activities? Any questions? And feel free, if you have questions, type them in the chat. I have 2 screens, so I'll be monitoring the chat. If you have a question, raise your, just type it in the chat. I have a question and I will call on you. If your name is listed in the Zoom, you can rename yourself if you haven't already. All right, so let's go on. So let me ask you this question. I'm going to show 2 pictures, and I want you to tell me from the 2 pictures, which one would you prefer? So let me just show you the picture. Let me show you the pictures. All right, so say unfortunately, you had to have some type of a surgery. And the surgeon, the last time that they developed themselves or went through some type of training, the operating room looked like A? Or would you want the surgeon to have had training where their operating room looked like B? So just type A or B in the chat. Which one would you prefer? I want the surgeon that learned how to do surgery in A or B, and I'm sure it's unanimous. I am certain. I'm not a mind reader, but I am almost certain that the answer is going to be B. Absolutely. So why is that? Why is that? We don't want, when we're thinking about, people, and yes, surgery is a big deal. So we definitely want someone who has continuously learned the techniques and learned about the different methods of treating and operating, and knows about the equipment. All of that comes with continual learning. And that's something that we have to do, and we have to adopt that mindset, which it sounds like the people just listening to Jeffrey and Craig talking about the things that you do, you all already know that. So I know I am preaching to the choir, but I just want to show the importance of continual development. Sometimes it's life or death. And so this just shows that, because you do not want to slip into obsolescence. So when you don't grow, you don't develop, then you become obsolete. Your skills atrophy, and we don't want that to happen. So let me explain to you why this is so important to me. I have been in a place, I was stuck in a rut. I was unhappy. I did not have developmental opportunities. I was in the agency, and I won't name the agency, but I was in the HR office. I was in HR for a number of years, 8 years. And if those who were paying attention to where I said I was, you probably already figured out which agency it was. But anyway, that's not important. The importance is I was in an agency for 8 years. 4 of those 8 years in the HR office, we didn't have money to develop training. We didn't have any budget for training. So I felt like I was like stuck. For once in my career, I wasn't able to take advantage of growth opportunities. I didn't have the funding. I felt like my skills were atrophying. So just what I shared with you happened to me. And I allowed that to happen only for a short amount of time. Because what happened is I was in a meeting, and I was used to like having meetings with like the senior executives, and I'm leading the meeting. And I realized when I got to this agency, because I had not had the opportunity to use my skills, even in running a meeting, I stumbled and stumbled and stumbled through that meeting, and I felt horrible. I was like, this is awful. All of the years that I've spent to develop myself are going to waste. And what is the point of developing any further when I can't even use the skills that I have? Well, let me just tell you, I did not stay there. I decided that, you know what? Guess whose in charge of their career? Me. I'm in charge of my career. I'm in charge of what I learned. No one can take that away from me. No one can tell me you can't learn that. I can do it. It is mine. And I took charge of my career and my development. And those are some of the things that I did, I'm going to share with you today. So I see we got something in the chat. So let me make sure that I'm not missing someone. So yes, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I love that, Jeffrey. I love that. Absolutely. If it's going to be, it's up to me. I like that. I'm gonna have to add that. All right. So let me ask you, why are you here? Why are you, besides the fact that this is what you do every Monday when you have the sessions, your Monday sessions, why are you here? What do you want to get from today's session with me? What would you like for me to make sure that I cover? And I take notes. So type in the chat, why are you here? What would you like to get? What is that one thing? If I leave with this one thing, it will have been a worthwhile will have spent my time wisely this Monday morning. So what is it that you need to get from today's session? Why are you here? And actually, if somebody wants to unmute and share, raise their hand, let me know that they want to speak, we can do that too. So I'll give you two options. You can either type it in the chat or you can share it with me. Why are you here? What would you like to get?
This is an open-ended discussion, ladies and gentlemen, so feel free to speak up.
All right. Looks like they want to type today, which is fine with me, Jeffrey. So tell us what specific tech skills we need. So I can't, without knowing what field you're in, I can't tell you what tech skills you need, but I will give you some tips and a process in order for you to discover what tech skills you need, Julie. Job search tips and tricks. I am not a career placement person, so I don't have job search tips and tricks, but I will have some things that you can do to enhance your job search. So yes, Lori, I will give you some of those. Anything that makes me better at what better that I didn't know. All right. To hear nuggets of information about learning on a shoestring budget. Well, yeah, I hope so, Jan. That's what the title is, right? Opportunities and or resources for low cost learning. Okay, so it seems like we're here for the reasons that I'm here. And let's see, how to develop my career. Okay, all right. So we are here for the reasons that I am going to share with you today. So let me ask you one more question. What is in your way of developing? What is in your way? Is there something that's keeping you from optimizing your developmental opportunities? I shared with you what was in my way. First of all, it was me and my mindset. Second of all, I thought it was the budget. So I just shared those things. Mike says, do certifications matter? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I don't know what field you're talking about. So in certain fields, they mean more than others, but certifications matter. And so certifications, and we'll talk about it, is one way to enhance your credibility and your marketability. And so a certification is an excellent way to develop. That one, it probably won't necessarily be on a shoestring budget. But I know, like with my industry associations, we provided scholarships for people who were seeking the credential that was relevant to the training. So the Association for Talent Development, our local chapter, I created a scholarship so people can get the same credential that I had if they didn't have it. So there's something that you can check in on that. So Benita said finances, most training I've learned of is high cost. Ooh, so I have some ways for you to get some free training, Tina. Yes, need, time, finances, very small network. Networking is an amazing way to grow and develop. And guess what? It doesn't cost anything to network. And so there's another low cost, no cost way to develop with very little funding. Finances are in the way. So what I'd like for everybody who's listed their barriers to why they can't develop, I want you to eliminate those right now. That thinking is gone. There is nothing stopping you from developing. And I can say that with confidence because I've done it. So I am going to continue to show ways. So we've already, I hope, and this is my last reminder to start capturing those developmental opportunities. We talked about networking, we talked about joining industry associations, and we also talked about certifications. So I've just given you all some to write on your list, and you're going to have lots more before the end of today. So thank you for sharing that with me. All right, so here's what we're covering today. The first thing we're going to do is talk about who needs to continually learn and develop to stay on top of their game. The second thing we're going to talk about is why is it important to do that? And the third thing we're going to talk about is how. So I'm going to give you a how. I'm going to give you a 4-step process on how to develop yourself on a shoestring budget to stay on top of your game. And I promise you I will. And I'll give you a free tool to do it. So here we are. Let's start. So who feels this way? I'm already at the top of my game. Who feels that way? And you can be honest, just type it in the chat. I'm already at the top of my game. Say it with an attitude. Let's see who wants to put that in the chat. So Daniela said, not me. I take it. So Benita said, I take advantage of free continuing legal education courses. Ooh. So there's another, so continuing legal education courses when available. So anybody who's in the legal profession, make sure you connect with Benita so she can tell you how she does it. And guess what? That's a networking opportunity as well. All right, so let's keep going. So I only saw one person who said, not me. This is not me. Well, I hope it's not anybody, because anybody who says I'm at the top of my game can be knocked off tomorrow if you do not continually grow and develop. So saying that means that your mindset, you're kind of stuck in between fixed and growth. I would say you're leaning more towards fixed. Because I feel like, I'm at the top of my game, but guess what? Tomorrow the game changes. So I need to stay on top of my learning so that I can continue to be on the top of my game. So let's go into who needs to continually develop. And you can just type that in the chat. Who doesn't need to continually develop? Which profession? Can you think of any profession that doesn't necessarily have any continuing eds, points, or who doesn't need to continually develop? I talked about surgeons. Who else? Is there any profession that you can think of that does not need to continually develop? All right, everyone. I would say everyone. Oh, I have rock stars in this group. I definitely have to join this group. All right, so absolutely. Everyone needs to continually to develop, to stay on top of their game. And I've heard people, oh my gosh, you would be surprised at the people, well, I know everything in my field. Guess what? No, you don't. It is impossible to know everything in a particular field. You can be an expert and still you need to learn. So here are some of the reasons why you need to be a trusted advisor. If you want to be that trusted advisor, that person that people come to for legal advice, Benita, or for, marketing and public relations, Craig. If you want to be that trusted advisor, then you have to continuously grow and stay on top of trends. There are certain things that you have to do: reading trade publications, attending an industry conference. And now there are tons of virtual conferences. People are having virtual conferences, which are just as effective as face-to-face if they've designed it in a way where you can still get that networking opportunity. And so anyone, whether you're a trusted advisor already, or you're seeking to be one, if you're an expert or you would like to be an expert in your field, everyone needs continuous development to be on top of their game. So here are 5 skills that every professional in every industry needs to continuously develop in order to not get left behind. Creativity, and this is from LinkedIn Learning. So these are the 5 skills that employers are looking for. The top 5 skills, soft skills that employers are looking for. They have a list of tech skills. So I can't remember who the person who was looking for some tech. But if you Google, another way to develop is research. Google is my friend. So Google LinkedIn Learning tech skills or top 5 tech skills, and you'll get this report. Or you can copy the report, the title of the report, and Google it, and it'll give you those tech skills as well. But the 5 soft skills that everybody needs: creativity. It allows you to try new things and explore. It makes your it gives you that growth mindset. When you have creativity, how do you develop? How do I think outside the box? We've all been placed in a virtual world. How were you able to adapt? So adaptability is another one. How were you able to adapt? I told you that conferences are now virtual. So there are people who are thinking, oh, wow, we had this conference scheduled. My industry association has a conference that sells out cities. So we had, and it's an international conference. Our last 2 keynote speakers were Oprah Winfrey and Barack Obama. And so we sell out. They created a virtual conference for that. So I'm telling you, you have to be adaptable. You have to be creative. You have to learn how to persuade people, communicating effectively so that people understand why do they need to be persuaded and what's in it for them. Those are skills that we can all use. And emotional intelligence. There is definitely a lack of emotional intelligence at times in our world. And so what that means is being self-aware, knowing how your emotions are triggered, and knowing how to utilize that, how to manage those emotions so that you don't get hijacked. And hijack means you're going off the rails. You are not being effective. And so controlling that, but also being able to read others, and adapting your behavior based on their emotions. So that is so important, whether you're in a virtual environment or face-to-face. So let's see what we have. Mr. Michael says you can't network at virtual conferences. That is false. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by that. If the conference, so I'm an instructional designer. So what I do is design learning events and activities and experiences. It has to be designed in a way where people can network. So I do speed networking virtually. I do it in person, but I had to adapt in the virtual environment. And so I bring people together with it just to network. They meet different people, they make connections and real connections. And so it depends on how the conference is designed as to whether there's opportunities to network. So you have to be selective in the virtual conferences that you choose, because you need to see how they're designing it, what's the format, and are there opportunities to network. So any other thoughts before I switch on these 5 skills, 5 top skills? Because in a second, you all are going to do some work. So that's a great approach to promote networking at virtual conferences. Thank you, Jeffrey. I have done tons of speed networking in face-to-face. And so I had my first virtual one when we were all locked down. And it was a huge success for my client. They had been with me they were my first client in 2011, still a client in 2020, and they were used to the face-to-face speed networking. And I was able to do the same thing virtually for them. So I was really excited about that. But absolutely, it is a great way to do it using technology such as Zoom or Adobe Connect.
Yes. We conducted a very successful speed networking event several weeks ago, as led by Ron Moore and also Craig. And we will conduct another speed networking event for our Thursday evening program in October.
Excellent. Excellent. So I hope that those that are not familiar with it or have not taken advantage of it, I hope they do, especially since that is a great way to develop and meet people and learn from others. We call it social learning, which I'll talk about a little bit in a few minutes. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so is everybody with me? Have I lost anybody? Anybody have any questions, any burning thoughts, anything that they want to ask before we move forward? All right, so we're clear about everyone needs to continually develop. So let's talk about why. Let's talk about why. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you in breakout groups. And has anyone, so before we go to that, let me check out what Scott has put down here. He's put a lot. So he's put his contact information to connect with him. How about that? Why doesn't everyone do that? Just put your contact information. You don't have to do it right now, but before the end of this session, if you're open to connecting, put your information. I love that. So Scott must have like a tip. One thing that you can do. I don't know if you have an iPhone or an Android, whatever you use to take virtual notes. Have your contact information, your little resume, your quick, here's who I am, ready. So you can just copy and paste it in a session like this, and it's always ready. So that is a great tool. And if you don't want to do that, hopefully you have a LinkedIn profile that is up to date. Always just have your LinkedIn handle so that people can connect with you in events such as this. So thank you, Scott, for leading the way and modeling what we should be doing in sessions such as this.
Yep.
All right. So let's go to our breakout group. So I am going to switch you up. So you all are going to be in breakout groups, and you are going to brainstorm a list of reasons why you need to continually learn to stay on top of your game. I'm only giving you 3 minutes to do it. So that 3 minutes, you're going to have to connect, you're going to have to network, and you're going to have to come up with your list. And the last thing you have to do is find one person who is going to share for your breakout group. Share your list. Anybody have any questions? All right, so I'm gonna put you in breakout groups. So you'll leave this main group and you'll go to breakout rooms. You'll have quick conversations, and then I'll bring you back after 5 minutes. All right, 1 second. Let me set it. So it's set for 5 minutes. All right, so we are going to start now. Welcome back. All right, let's see. I think, is everybody back? Looks like it. All right, so let's hear these lists. What are some reasons why you need to continuously learn to stay on top of your game? Who wants to go first?
I'm ready. It's Regine.
Go ahead, Regine.
Charles Bowser. I have 7. Is that enough? I think we have 7. Yeah, we were a good group. Networking is number 1. Current and subject matter. Communicate that well. Follow through. Like when you network and do all that, you need to follow through. That's key. That came from Jeffrey. That was really good. Being clear and concise in your communication is important. That came from Jeff in our group. Continuing education, that's number 5. And number 6 is a professional association in your field. And then I thought of also a professional association, but a fun association. So those are the 7.
Okay, so it sounds like we had a mix of ways to continuously develop as well as some reasons. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, so who else? That was 7. Who has something different? What group came up with some other reasons why we need to continually learn to stay on top of our game?
I'll go. This is John Wilhelm. I was with Robin Moore and Lois Niemhard, and we said that, you know, the environment is constantly changing. The workforce is constantly changing, and so you know, you're going to need to stay on top of your game, if for no other reasons, to keep your confidence level up, and to demonstrate your ability that you can continue to do the work as the jobs evolve, and then also to prepare ourselves for leadership roles.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, John. Any others that have not been said?
I can go next. This is Wilson Rumble. Our group, aside from what was already being mentioned around confidence and networking, we talked about keeping your skills afresh, also being competitive. This keeps the competitive edge up. And I thought of one more after our group left. I think this is something that can be added to your resume. It shows that while you're out of work, that you remained active. So it's something that it's a question that comes up in the interviews that at least the ones I've experienced. What have you been doing in your time off?
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. Especially when you're transitioning, it is so important to continually grow your skills during that time of transition. Absolutely. Thank you, Wilson. Anyone else?
So I guess I'll go for our group. This is Benita. So to kind of add to the last two, we also really focused on the fact that, you know, you need to stay up to date. Employers specifically for this demographic 40 plus have this bias, have this assumption and fear that, you know, this demographic in particular may not be tech savvy, may not be up to date in their skills. So really, we want to show that we can stay up to date in our skills. Really want to show that we can stand out and compete against our competitors, including and especially younger workers. And also we want to be able to show that we have been doing something with like time off. Like I said in my presentation a few weeks back, one of the questions that people are going to start seeing in light of this pandemic and the lockdown is, how do you spend your time during the lockdown? And, you know, I can actually answer truthfully, oh, I actually completed all my CLE requirements for the year, which I did. I took advantage of a virtual, you know, conference that we had for my state bar association back home. And I got like 16 or 17 credits straight from there. So there you go.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. You can just see the passion just oozing from me. Like, I love to hear that, what people are doing in times of challenging times when it seems like doors are being closed. Those are opportunities for us to step through and do something different. So I love it. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to share? Because you all have pretty much just taught the rest of the session. So I'm just going to just breeze through because you've said it. You've said it. It's as if you've seen my slides, and I know you haven't. So let me go back to why we need to maximize our success. So continuous learning maximizes our success. Specifically, as you've already mentioned, we need to stay current in our field, whether you're transitioning or not. Some ways to stay current, which we've already talked about, is attend an industry conference, read a trade publication, which I know for my industry, many of them are free, and attend industry or professional webinars. So those are other ways that you can develop your skills, stay on top of your learning while you're in this pandemic, is webinars. You can find some really good ones that are not just selling to you, because sometimes there's this sales pitch, but what learning nuggets can you get in between the sales pitch? Also, and what you've already said, increase your credibility and your marketability. And so LinkedIn groups is one way. Joining LinkedIn groups. When you're sharing information, especially on industry related topics, it shows that you're credible, especially that you know what you're talking about, that you can engage people in conversations around those topics of interest. LinkedIn discussions. So someone will post an article or post, just write something and send you somewhere, and just commenting on it. Making sure that what you're commenting on is credible, that is accurate, that you're making sense, because it can have an adverse effect if you're not really sure about what you're saying. But if you know what you're talking about, you will engage someone will respond. So you're increasing your credibility and your marketability. Informational interviews is another one. So if someone is in a position that you're interested in, not necessarily theirs, but a title, then ask them, what did you do to get to where you are? Can you just share some learning nuggets with me? Now, you don't approach it as if you want a job or their job, but you really are curious about what they did to get to where they are. And it also shows that you're interested in their field. And you never know where that may turn into. They may know someone who's looking for someone who has what you have to offer. And so that's something else. Public speaking is another way to build your credibility, your marketability, to stay active, to learn. Every time you do public speaking, I've done this probably 20 to 40 times. And every time I do it, I'm learning something new. How can I keep it fresh? What can I add to it? Writing blogs, writing articles is a great way to increase your credibility and your marketability. And then, as we've already mentioned, earning a credential or some certification. During COVID, I became a certified virtual facilitator. I've been doing virtual facilitation since 2012, but I actually got a credential to show that I can do what I say I can do. And then it also builds confidence, which you've already shared. And so interviewing just in general builds confidence. It develops your skills. So sometimes I've gone on an interview knowing I probably am not going to leave my job, but if I had the opportunity, I would interview just so I can sharpen my interpersonal skills, my communication skills, and my persuasion skills. So those are those skills that we talked about that are those top 5 soft skills. That's just interviewing helps you with that, even emotional intelligence, because you're reading the other person as you're communicating. And it's helping you to increase your self-awareness. How do people receive me? And then what adjustments do I need to make? So I've just given you a ton of activities to add to your list. So let me share this quote with you. So I'll give you a chance to reflect on this, to look at this quote, and then type agree or disagree in the chat if you agree or disagree with this quote. All right, so far we agree. Looks like it's unanimous. And I don't want to miss, someone typed in the chat. I think this is Eileen. So let me go back to that. So Eileen said, in my group, there was a question where to find certification courses. Trade groups are usually the best. You can find a list of trade associations and encyclopedia of associations. That's great information. Your public library, you can Google. So I'm going to have you all go on a scavenger hunt in a second. So I swear you all are on it. You all are on it. I love it. I love the energy. I love the engagement, and I appreciate it. All right. So it seems like we all agree with this statement. And remember, this is whatever phase you're in your career journey. Each stage or phase in that career journey presents opportunities to learn. I was I had already been in my field for learning and development for over 20 years when I became a full-time consultant. And let me tell you, there was lots of learning to learn about the business, to learn about finances, to learn marketing, all these things that I needed to learn because I was in a different phase in my career. And so that was an opportunity for me to sharpen my saw in different areas. And all this leads to is this growth mindset, which is so important. Growth mindset is the essential ingredient to maximize success. And so now that we have this essential ingredient, let's talk about the recipe. the recipe to maximize your success. So we talked about who needs to do it. We talked about why it's important to continually grow and stay on top of your game. And now let's talk about the how, which is this recipe. So maximize your success by answering these 4 questions. And I use these questions for everything because whenever you're talking about change, you need to know where you are now. You need to know where you want to be. How are you going to get there? And how do you know you're moving? It works for just about everything. And I'm going to give you a tool that's designed just for this, for individual development planning. But let's talk about each one of these individually. So where am I now? So what I want you to do, this is where, remember I said you're going to go on a scavenger hunt. So I'd like for you to, it depends on how you're set up. Like if you have your phone, you can use your phone and Google, but I want you to find your industry assessment, competency or skills assessment. Where is it located? Not where is it, but provide the copy and paste the URL in the chat. So whatever your industry association assessment, skills assessment, competency assessment, type it in the chat or copy and paste it into the chat. And I will do it. If there are any trainers on here, I am going to type ours in there. So I'll give you 2 minutes for this scavenger hunt to type it in the chat. All right, so is anybody finding their industry competency model, skills assessment? I don't see anyone copying it into the chat. So I'll give you a few more minutes to find it. I even looked up one, if somebody said that they were retired, I found a skills assessment for people who are retired. I found skills assessments for graphic designers. I found them through Google. So I'll give you 1 more minute to find your industry competency or skill assessment. Right, so Eileen is a source of information and she has found a competency list, libraries, a library of competencies. What if you want to transfer to another field, but not sure which one? So let me start with the first question. So I'm a business development manager and so can work in many industries. Do you recommend? So did you Google business development competencies?
I did, and just it said pro profs quizzes popped up. That was it.
That was it. Wow. So you're going to have to do some digging. You're going to have to find out what skills are needed for a business development manager. Okay. And I don't know if there's an association for business development managers, but I think Eileen put there was an encyclopedia of associations. That's probably a great place to go. And you can find your industry association and they probably have that information somewhere there.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. So the next one was, what if you want to transfer into another field, but not sure which one? Well, you're going to have to do some soul searching, Lorna, and figure out, what are you passionate about? What are those things that get you up in the morning? What are those things that you would do for free? And then that will help you determine what field you want to go in. What experience do you already have? So all of this falls into where am I now? Because you need to know where you are now. And one way to do that is an assessment. So I put in, my industry association has a capability model that they just refreshed. I was part of that process of creating questions around that if you're going to be certified in it. but it is a way for us here, the requisite skills, the competencies that are necessary if you're in talent development. So I know what my industry is. You have to get familiar with your industry, your profession, and find out what skills are needed and what are recommended. If there's any coaches here, you have the International Coaching Federation. ICF is the governing body that has those competencies. INEFAC has competencies if you're a facilitator. So I know the ones from my profession. You need to get familiar with it to find out where are you, what are your skill gaps. So how you determine that is, where am I now? If you currently are in a job, having conversations with your supervisor is a free way to get some ways to develop and figure out, okay, here's some things, here's some gaps that I have, here's some things that I need to work on. Reflect on your work experiences. It's free. What have I already done? What was challenging? What was easy? Because you don't just focus on the things, your gaps, you also enhance your strengths when you're working on your development. So those are some other ways to help you. Assessment, conversations with supervisors, and also reflection. Any questions about how do you figure out where you are now? All right, moving on. Where do I want to be? So this is where goals is important. And you have to determine your career goals. So those of you who are not sure what you want to transition into, one of your goals is to research, find out what your passionate is. What your passion is. They have a passion, it's a passion assessment. It helps you determine what you're passionate about. And so there's ways to discover that. I do teach other workshops. I have Leap to Your Passion coaching, where I help people tap into their passion and work closer, develop a plan to get them there. And so your goals, what are your career goals? What are your competency goals? So I talked about if you've done a competency assessment and you have gaps in your competencies, if you know, say for example, for me as talent development, facilitation. So facilitating learning. If I had a gap in some of those behaviors that make me proficient in that area, then I would know that a goal is to close that skills gap. And so, yes, congratulations, Robin. I am excited for you. Wow, construction management. I would love to talk to you about that. It's just so intriguing to me as to what goes into that. So I'm going to connect with you, Robin. So, okay, so goals, competencies, you're looking at the role that you're in or the role that you want. Where do you want to be? And then you determine, okay, here's this experiences that I've already had. Here's where I want to be. So here's what I need to add to that. I use myself as an example. I told you I was a master trainer before I left the government, but where I want to be is I want to be an exceptional consultant and grow my consulting business. So I have some gaps. I need to figure out, how do I learn how to make sure my books are right? Thankfully, I'm married to an accountant, so he helps me with that. But there were lots of opportunities for me to learn. So where do I want to be? And then if you're in an organization, say if one of the organizational goals is everyone needs to be a project manager. So then you have a goal where there's certain skills that you need to close those skill gaps so that you can be a certified PMP, for example. So any questions about where am I now and where do I want to be? All right, so the big one, how will I get there? And this is where you're going to have to look at different ways to develop. So you need to incorporate in your development plan ways to learn socially, ways to learn where it's experiential. So those two are informal ways of learning. And I'll give you some specific examples. So social learning could be, as I already mentioned, joining an association, but being active in the association. So taking on a leadership role in the association is a great way to develop your skills. Finding a mentor. Serving as a mentor is another way to develop your leadership skills, your interpersonal skills, your emotional intelligence. Communities of practice. So within industries, they have certain, so for example, in my industry, we have people which we call free agents. So we have consultants, we have people who are interested in instructional design, we have people who are interested in government. So we have different communities of practice within our industry that if we're just specifically focused on one area, we can join that community of practice as a part of our membership. Experiential, so that's where we're talking about detail opportunities, developmental assignments, job rotation, shadow assignments, on-the-job training, and coaching. So getting a coach to help you develop certain skill sets. And then the action learning project. So where you're solving real world or organizational challenges, that is a great way to learn and develop skills. Anybody have any questions so far? All right, so let's talk about this training piece. It can be formal or informal training. So videos is an informal way, looking at a video. And there's so many things on YouTube. Just make sure that what you're reading, what you're looking at is real. It is credible. Let's see what we have in the chat, because I see some chats. See if it's just comments. So how do I get a mentor and sponsor? So I develop mentoring programs as well. And I have to say that most people, most professionals, you should have at least 3 different mentors, because one person can't be everything. So your mentor, I have a mentor for like challenges, depending on, I'm having this challenge. How did you solve this? What did you do? Help me work through this. Be a sounding board. Then there's a mentor that just kind of looks out for your career growth. What are you doing? Sharing your development plan with them and getting feedback. They can help. And I always get the mentor and the sponsor confused, because I think the sponsor is the person that kind of looks out for you and connects you with certain people and makes sure that you have connections. But those people, they make connections. I utilize my network with people who I'm mentoring to help them in areas that I'm not an expert in. So now the more I expand my network, I have more tools in order to provide people who I'm mentoring. So industry associations have mentoring programs. So that is another, I highly recommend your industry association. That was the program that I did for an association, AGA, Association for Government Accountants. I am not a financial management person, but I developed their mentoring program so that they could have seasoned people who were mentoring partners with those who were less seasoned, and they could connect. So Jeffrey, experiential learning is the key that incorporates socialization and training. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's not enough to just learn something. You got to put it into action. What are you doing with the learning? And that's where that experiential piece is so important. And so we talked about training and not having a lot of training can cost a lot of money. So there's 2 that I highly recommend. 2, Udemy. Is anybody familiar with Udemy? Where you can get college courses for free. You can get credit. Udemy and Coursera are 2 that I highly recommend. And we call them MOOCs, but I never remember what MOOC stands for. I think it's massive. I have to look it up. But Coursera and Udemy, where they have like virtual, you can take classes. And I've taken like a statistics class from Stanford. and I'm here in Maryland. So those are just some other ways. Workshops, books, and seminars. Other ways to develop. Volunteering is another way to develop. Volunteering your talents gives you an opportunity to I'm volunteering. This is like my third stint on my industry association board because it helps me keep my leadership skills sharp. So let me see. Udemy is one and Coursera is the other one. We talked about networking, teaching someone else. So when you're teaching someone else, you're learning as well. You have to sharpen your skills in order to teach them effectively. Creating a job aid for someone. So someone needs to know how to do something or access a system. Create something to help them do that, enhances your ability, your learning as well, and keeps you sharp. And then researching. Google, as I said, is my friend. I find out whatever I need to know in Google. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right. So how will you know you're moving? Uh-oh. I think I'm skipping one. Okay, so how will you know you're moving? And this is where you need to have measures of success. So I know when I close that skills gap, when I know how to create a spreadsheet in Excel, then I am successful. When I'm able to create pivot tables, I am successful. Thank you, Eileen. Massive open online courses is what those Udemy and Coursera are called, MOOCs. Revisit your individual plan regularly. So some people create an IDP and they never look at it. Well, create it, put it on your calendar that on the 1st of every month, I'm going to look at it and see what have I done? What do I need to add? What do I need to take away? So that's how you know you're moving. Any questions? Any questions? All right, so here's the big reveal. How many developmental activities have you captured today? I'll give you a chance to count them. Who has 35? All 35. Who got all 35 that I mentioned? Anyone? Who has 30? 25? 20? More than 15? Wow. Okay. So who has 10? Anybody want to? Okay, so Daniela has 9. Oh, Dawn says she has 14. So let's hear from Dawn.
Okay, join professional organizations, network, certifications, trade publications, conferences, research, webinars, public speaking, mentoring, coaching, videos, volunteer, teaching, and create a job aid.
Wow. Anybody have more than Dawn? Anybody have more than 14? Going once, going twice. So Dawn is our winner. Dawn is our winner. So what Dawn will receive, hopefully I will be able to connect with Jeffrey and get Dawn's information, is my book. So I wrote, and it's more of a learning journal, and it's called Don't Get Left Behind. And it is, how do you take charge of your development, your professional development in 30 days? And it really is just a way, it's something that I've done and that I do, and I just put it into paper for other people to benefit from it. So it's, you set aside 10 minutes of your day, every day, set aside 10 minutes of your day, and you focus on learning. You reflect on what you've learned. You think about what you need to learn. And it changes your behavior, where you're always looking for learning activities or learning opportunities because it's on your mind, it's top of mind. And it's just a quick way to do that. So Dawn is the winner of the book. So I will send you a copy of my book. So, oh, thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So let me just make sure I have that. All right. So what I usually do in my live sessions, before I give everybody's going to get a free tool, is I do this koosh ball. So what usually happens is I throw it around the room, and everybody who catches it has to share one thing they got from today's session. What is one learning nugget that you got from today? Well, obviously, I cannot throw the ball around virtually to everybody in this group. So what I'd like for you to do is just type in the chat one thing you got from today's session. Sometimes I do a round robin and I ask everybody to unmute and share. We're not going to do that because of the size of the group, but just type in the chat one thing that you got, one learning nugget that you got from today that you can use. It may be something you already knew and you just got refreshed. Whatever that is, just type it in the chat. All right. So I see you thinking, and Lori is first. Join a professional association. Write blogs. Yes. Teach someone. Exactly. A professional development plan. Passion assessment. Certifications. Excellent. Yes, teach. I developed a whole leadership program around, it's called Leaders as Teachers from the book. And I can't remember, I think his name is Ed Beto. I can't remember how to spell it, but it's a program that I developed for an agency where people who are subject matter experts, I give them the tools and techniques on how to teach and transfer their knowledge. And so definitely it's a great leadership tool to be able to share your knowledge effectively. All right, so reminder to reinforce the power of experiential learning. The more you learn, the more you realize how much. So I see lots of learning has happened today. The top 5 skills. Check out certification for virtual facilitation. Eileen, that is in effect is the, if you Google certified virtual facilitator, it should come up. You're welcome. All right. So the last thing I want to share is I created a developmental tool, individual development planning, an IDP tool that is built around those 4 questions. Where am I now? Where do I need to be? How will I get there? And how will I know I'm moving? And it's free. If you go to this link, you can, there's a 0 cost, and you just put your information in and you can download the tool. It's a free development tool that I'm offering to everyone. It's actually on my website, so you could get it publicly, but you're getting the link here. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? Questions, comments? You are welcome. So I just want to remind you, stay on top of your game. To stay on top of your game, you have to feed your skills and cultivate your talents. It is essential. It is not optional. And I look forward to staying connected with each and every one of you. I appreciate you being actively engaged in today's session. It is, as you can tell, something that I am really excited about. I could talk about development all day long, but we only had an hour and a half. So I will not take up any more of your time. So thanks for having me. And I
Link in the
turn it
chat.
over. I'm sorry,
Could you put the link in the chat, please?
this link or the tool?
Both, actually.
Okay, so hold on one second. I will definitely do that. All right, anybody need anything else? Any other questions? All right, Jeffrey.
Deidra, wow, what a wonderful presentation. You stood and delivered an outstanding talk, and we had the overwhelming majority of our participants to remain throughout your presentation. Rest assured, you will be invited back to 40 Plus to present again. And to our participants, we thank you for your involvement in today's program. We will send you a post-event survey later today, and we'd like you to fill it out. It helps us to know what we're doing right and what we need to adjust to make things even better. Again, thank you. Have a great week. Deidra, again, thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure.